On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, 6 games into the Toronto Raptors' new era post-OG Anunoby trade, there's lots of good stuff going on. Statistically, there's lots of interesting stuff going on. Today, we dig into 6 stats from the first 6 post-trade games and try to parse what's real and what's not. It's all coming up today. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It is Friday, January the 12th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the website that don't work so good, at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. And of course, you can join us over on the Locked On Raptors Discord server, a beautiful place to be. It's a happy place to be these days. Yeah, they're the odd folks dropping in terrible Pascal Siakam trades, but we love those folks as well. Come hang out. Link is in the description. It's free to join. And for my money, it's the best place to talk about the Toronto Raptors on the internet these days, baby. Would love to see you there. Of course, a reminder, you can find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, etc. Always appreciated when you support the show. We are also on YouTube. You can go subscribe to the video version of the show. Just go to our channel, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little notification bell. That bell will give you a heads up every single time the episode's about to premiere each and every day, which is perfect for you everydayers out there who never miss an episode, which at this point should be each and every one of you listening to this right now. Today's show is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 emergency antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. Use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your order. That's JASEmedical.com. And let's get rolling here. Very excited for today's show. A first-time guest who is the queen of stats on Toronto Raptors Twitter. It is Kirtika Uthaya-Kumar from TSN. Kirtika, how's it going? It's awesome to have you.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thrilled to have you. Of course, those who don't follow you on Twitter are fools. Those who do follow you on Twitter know that you are constantly coming up with extremely good statistical nuggets about your Toronto Raptors through your work with the Toronto Raptors broadcasts. And I'm thrilled to have you here today because we have a fun show lined up. We are going to dig in to 6 stats, 3 each that we've pulled up. They're surprise stats. We don't know what each other has pulled out either.
No.
And dig into whether they are real or not from the first 6 games of the Toronto Raptors post-OG Anunoby trade era. Frankly, let's not waste time. Let's dive right on in. And seeing as you are making your debut appearance on the podcast, I am very excited to give you the floor. Kirtika, what is your first stat that you want to throw at me? A stat from the first 6 games that we can now discuss whether it is real or not. What you got?
It's going to be the offense.
Okay.
124 points for 100 possessions they're scoring since the trade. It
Crazy.
has been, considering what the Raptors were to start the year and for the first, 20 or so games even? 15 games? Up until, I think, after the in-season tournament championship, obviously that they were not in, but that's the mark I'm going with. They had a 10-game period when it was also good. It was 10 games before. I think it was 120 points per 100 possessions, which is 124 is pretty good. That's 4th in the NBA in January.
It's crazy. The Toronto Raptors, functional offense. It's unbelievable.
Functional offense. They scored, I think, against the Grizzlies. Yes. 24 points in the first 5.5 minutes of basketball. They did that twice in that game.
Yeah.
There have been 5.5 minute stretches without a made field goal on this team before. Yeah. Probably this season even.
Dozens of them, one would argue.
Yeah. They do that a lot.
They sure do, but it does seem like it's a thing of the past. And look, I do think a lot of today's stats will be offense oriented because that is the thing that's popping off the screen, individual team-wide stuff. But yeah, this one, like you said, 4th in offense. Their half-court offense, Kirtika, is 5th.
Yes.
The half-court. 5th.
Yep.
The start of the season, they were like sub-Portland Trailblazers.
I had a 30th in half-court offense tweet saved in my drafts because it was so bad for so long.
I remember getting excited about, wow, they're 27th now. They made like a jump after a game, and it was like, this is remarkable. This is huge.
Amazing.
Absolute scenes. So I
They're
guess the
fifth.
question here, yeah, go ahead.
They're fifth since the trade.
Yes.
Fifth since, wrote these down somewhere here. Fifth since the trade. Sixth in the 10 games prior. So
Yeah.
even since that like post IST mark,
Mhm.
they've been fifth. So it's been good in that whole stretch, but 108.7 points per 100 plays in the half court since the trade. For most of the last 2 seasons, it's been sub 95 points per.
Crazy. The question then becomes, how real is this? We can do this on a scale of 1 to 10, I suppose. We used to have a game. It's mostly after 13 games specifically. It's called the Bargs game, where we decide whether it's cooked or al dente as far as a stat. We won't do that here. We'll save that as the one-off we did with our pal S. Baraheni early in the season. But we will, just do a quick 1 through 10 scale of how much you actually believe that the Toronto Raptors have the 4th best offense in the NBA. Where would you slot this in at?
I think I'm going to go, I don't know about 4th best NBA, but top 10, probably around a 7 or 6 or a 7, let's say.
Sure.
The first stretch of it being, of good signs of it being good, was Scotty's shooting like being real. Right? We got through the first few games and we're like, okay, now this is consistent and real, and he's shooting this well, being this efficient day in, day out. And then Pascal started shooting the 3 well again.
He's shooting the 3 ridiculously well of late now.
Ridiculously well.
Yeah.
So
61% in his last 5.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
It's like 45% over like a 9-game sample with like, what in the world? And so that's where it started. So we went from, it looks good, but they only have 3.5 good shooters on the team, and it looks good. Yeah. And 3.5 could be streaky, maybe not, maybe so. But now they added 2 more. So it's gonna, I think, be more consistently not a, what's the right word? A struggle every game.
Yeah, 100%. I think, the quickly element to me is like the biggest reason for the change. Just obviously his own pull-up shooting, just raw numbers. He's like 46% since the trade. But also just the impact that his gravity has on everybody else's looks. It just, everything comes so much easier going to the basket, away from the basket. Movement shooting, Kirtika. It's a beautiful thing, and more of it, please. It'd be really cool if Grady Dick could figure it out as well, just because of the clear impact that just a tiny little bit of movement shooting can have on this team. You mentioned the other shooter brought back in the trade, RJ Barrett, and he is the topic of my first stat that I want to throw out there.
Right.
And it's just, he's been unbelievable since the trade. I don't really know what to do with it. It's obviously parts of it are going to come back to earth with that, old friendly wave of regression to the mean that always comes. But here's the stat that I pulled about RJ Barrett. Per Clean the Glass, he is currently averaging with the Raptors 1.409 points per shot attempt, which is the 100th percentile mark in points per shot attempt in the entire NBA since the trade. Is RJ Barrett the best player in basketball, is what I'm saying.
Yes, RJ.
71% true shooting, 68.5 effective field goal percentage, which is also 100th percentile. What have you made of this Barrett start? And how much do you believe in his ridiculous off-the-charts efficiency? Obviously, if we're going 10 of 10, we're saying he is the best player in the history of basketball, which probably is a stretch. But scale 1 to 10, how much do you believe in this RJ sort of efficiency renaissance?
I don't need any more games to say that he is the best Canadian to play for the Raptors.
Yeah, poor Corey Joseph. Lost that title quick.
Chris Boucher, you're great. You're great too, but easily best Canadian to play for the Raptors. I think he's taking the best of an incredible opportunity here. And he's been very confident in each of his little actions that he's playing in. It's been great.
Yeah, I think the off-ball stuff's been really fun. The catch and shoot stuff. the cuts, that's the thing. The catch and shoot will come down. The cuts have been so precise and clean and just punishing when he gets the ball with a head of steam and just kind of barreling towards the rim. It's been really, really incredible. And I think the other sort of fascinating stat, one of the stats that like really concerned me, I suppose, at the time of the trade was if you went back through, cleaning the glass charts where every shot comes from for guys, all the different, at the rim, short mid-range, long mid-range, corner three, above the break three, et cetera, et cetera. If you go back to his shot charts over the course of his career, there was exactly one area of the floor where he had ever shot above average in his entire career. It was from, I think, above the break threes in the 2020-2021 season. And so other than that, below average.
40% from three that year.
Yeah, exactly. And other than that, he was below average from everywhere. Now he's like 82nd percentile or higher in every area of the floor outside of short mid-range. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
Yeah. Like, again, he's really just sort of pared down what he's doing. He's not commandeering possessions, and the Raptors system doesn't really allow for commandeering of possessions. Whereas I think that's kind of the Knicks' whole deal was they have two guys who commandeer the possessions. A third guy can get in there sometimes, but it's always going to be cluttered. It's always going to be space to navigate. And yeah, it's looking so clean with RJ Barrett right now. And I was like full on RJ skeptic coming into this. I was ready for the sort of wave that you sometimes get where, Canadian guy is here. Let's pretend he's 20% better than he actually is because he's got the passport. But no, like he's been everything you could want. Yeah, it's been.
He hit a three off of a cut last night, and it was just wait. Did RJ just do that? He just do that? He was so good.
Yeah, and that isn't even like we're talking about the scoring efficiency right now, but like the playmaking. I think there's been some pretty interesting flashes. That lefty pass he can make cross court when he's kind of going downhill that's like a real tool in the bag. It's a ton of fun. Well, we're loving RJ.
So on StatHead right now, RJ has 15 different 6-game spans where he's averaged 20 points and shot 50% or better from the floor.
Okay.
In all of those, he has 21 assists in 6 games with the Raptors. That's the most of any of those 6-game spans.
That's
so the playmaking, like the passing. Obviously, it's the system too that Darko plays in, but
system matters. Fit matters. Not being overlapped with Julius Randle, who's basically just a 2 inches taller version of you, matters. We'll come back. We've got more fun stats from the first 6 games of the post-OG trade era in Toronto that we'll get into here. We'll do that coming up in just 1 sec. Today's show is brought to you by Jase Medical. And look, maybe you're traveling. Maybe this time of year you're getting on those hot deals to go down south as the weather's not so good up here. It's important, though, to be prepared because sometimes you're going to fall sick when you go traveling. You don't want to be in a position where you're sick, far away from your home and medical attention, and you don't have any way to take care of yourself. That is where the Jase case comes in. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. Stuff can happen to anyone. It's just the way things go when you're traveling. You don't want to follow. You don't want to ruin your vacation. Having the Jase case just packed in your luggage, it's tiny. It fits in there. The odds are you'll never have to use it, but if you do need to, it's right there for you, and you can access Jase Medical's in-house physicians who are there to guide you if you have questions about proper use of medication and all of that different stuff as well. Visit jasemedical.com, complete your physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use the code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. All right, continuing on here with your first listen of the day, digging into some stats from the Raptors' first 6 games with RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly with Kirtika from TSN, the queen of Raptors stats. You don't like this? You should be walking around with a crown. Accept the title. That means you are deserving of the title. If you're unwilling to accept it, it means you're deserving of it. I think that's how it goes in like literature, right? But let's dive in. Kirtika, what's your next stat? What you got? You had the offense as your number 1. What you got for number 2?
I was going to say the half court, but I guess it's similar along those lines. The other would be the assists.
Yes.
Which is also part of the offense.
Yeah.
So early on in the season, I mean, they've been doing it, like they've been top 5, top 10 in assists the entire season for the most part, as a part of the system that Darko has put in. But earlier on, it was more of like I wasn't really inclined to use those numbers to say anything because sure, they were assisting on like 68% or 70% of their shots, but that was at least based off of the eye test. There were still lots of passing for the sake of passing, and all of a sudden they've made 7 passes, and there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and they've gotten nothing.
Passing for the sake of passing.
Passing for the sake of passing. Yeah. So the assist numbers felt a little silly then. I didn't really like using them. But again, in that same post in-season tournament stretch, like I feel like the playmaking has improved, and now with Quickly and Barrett, they're averaging 30, just over 30.7 or so assists in the last 6 games. 29.7 on the season. Like it's a negligible difference. However, the efficiency also plays a factor in that too. So they're actually technically averaging, I don't know if the right word is more intentional assists.
Sure.
Whereas before they were shooting they had a 53. So 2023, a 53.9 effective field goal percentage, which is 20th in the NBA, which means they're averaging like 29 assists on 42 made field goals a game. And now it's a 61.0 effective field goal percentage.
Crazy.
The Toronto Raptors have a 51.0 effective field goal percentage. That's like second in the NBA, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's this game stretch for 30.7 assists.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Which is much more like it's just more intentional, where it's like the ball is moving and then it's quick 0.5 basketball.
It's nice that they can like play 0.5 principles now because they have like players who can dribble.
Players to do so.
Yeah. And this is nothing against OG Anunoby. Obviously, OG brings a lot to the table. He was asked a lot to just kind of be an agent for spacing because there weren't that many agents for spacing on the team.
No.
And his drive game, a little mechanical, a little robotic, a little less in terms of like drawing in defenders and making quick reads out. It was kind of like, all right, I have the ball. I'm either going to pull up for a mid-range J and I might hit it, or I'm going to drive and try to score through a guy. There wasn't a ton in terms of like the next move coming out of those drives, right? And I think we're seeing that like Quickly in particular. He's making tons of great reads getting downhill. Barrett, obviously, we just talked about the reads he's making too. It's been an absolute blast to watch this all kind of coalesce. So this assist one, I think like 9 or 10 out of 10, I believe that this is just a thing they do, right? Like, again, assists don't always mean good offensive production, but it has lately. I think your point about intentionality is really good. Are you with me there? Like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, this is going to stick?
This is going to stick. Their assist rate is lower in the last 6 games. Like they're not assisting as the same like percentage of their field goals, but they're averaging more assists.
And more field goals because they're just straight buckets now. It's just
they can shoot
team
the basketball.
Of walking buckets. My second stat I want to throw at you. Dennis Schroeder, the on-off wizard.
Yes.
He has been so good since assuming the mantle of one of the best backup point guards in basketball. So good, in fact, that he is leading the Toronto Raptors right now in on-off differential since the trade. The Toronto Raptors are 22.6 points per 100 possessions better with Dennis Schroeder on the floor than they are when he's off. The offense gets 15 points more efficient when he's on the floor. The defense gets 7.5 points better when he's on the floor. Do you buy that Dennis Schroeder is all of a sudden in line to like make a second half push for 6th man of the year? Right now he started 31 games, so he can only start 9 more and still maintain eligibility, but he has been unbelievable. I went through some of the numbers on Thursday's podcast, the mix of him and Emmanuel Quickly and how good they've been in those lineups together. But overall, Schroeder is just driving positive play no matter who he's playing with right now. How much do you buy this, and what have you made of Schroeder's run here?
I think it's incredible how professional he's been through everything. I know there's been lots of talk and
bad aggregation.
Noise, bad aggregation. Don't get me started.
Reading comprehension, the Dunk Central, please employ it once.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
But he embodies the same. I think it's when he was starting, there was definitely more of a hierarchy thing going on a little bit. More in the sense of not in a negative way, but often they couldn't figure out who was doing what when.
Yeah. And it often
sense.
boiled down to Dennis being like, well, I guess I'll run this pick and roll with no space.
Exactly. And that's not a thing anymore. It hasn't been since he's been coming off the bench. And it also helps. I think those numbers help that he doesn't have to play with the Malakis and the Preciouses of those during those minutes.
Yeah. The sad reality of it all for those people.
The Raptors traded 2 rotation players and somehow made their bench that much better.
Yeah.
And that says a lot, I think. But Dennis is a key part of those bench minutes.
Yeah.
I think this sticks 100%.
I'm with you. Like, we've seen Dennis Schroeder perform extremely well with lineups that make sense with his skill set, where there's more shooting and more ball handling to work with. Not surprised we've seen him. I've made this point a couple times. You know, if you're sick of it and you've heard it too many times on the pod, I'm sorry, but not everyone listens every day. But it's just the difference between being the third best backup point guard in basketball and the third worst starting point guard in basketball. It's so unbelievably substantial when you figure in context and fit and lineup combinations and all that. It's been pretty awesome to see. Dennis Schroeder gone from guy who made me really angry watching him play basketball to, hey, I could watch this all day. This is great. I
was pro starting him at the beginning of the season because I'm not huge on Gary Trent Jr. but it came to a point where it was just like, this is just not, there's nowhere near enough spacing on this, especially with all 4 of Pascal, OG, and Scotty starting as well, like to make that a functioning starting lineup, especially one that plays 10, 15 minutes a game. So the move to the bench was the perfect thing for him. It made all the sense, especially for the 3 of them at that point in time. And now with the spacing that they have now, it's even better, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's just the value of just knocking a guy down 1 or 2 rungs in the hierarchy in the pecking order and putting him in a spot where he's not overextended, where he can kind of tap back into, like, the on-ball defense has been there again from him in a way it was just not when he was getting just demolished by every screen that was set within 5 feet of him for a long stretch there. It's been a really great return to form here for Dennis Schroeder, one of the very best backups in the league. Yeah.
The Raptors, Darko ran a Dennis and bench stretch yesterday with Jonte Porter, Garrett Temple, Chris Boucher. No, sorry, not Chris Boucher. Jalen McDaniels and Gary Trent Jr. Yeah, and it was good. That was their best shift. They were plus 11 in those minutes in 4.5 minutes.
Crazy.
And that, like, Jonte had the majority of scoring and assists in that, but when you're watching, Dennis is kind of just running everything from the back, and it was amazing.
Hey, Dennis working with a spacing big too. That's not nothing, right? Like, it's it all adds up. The team sport is it gets easier when the team makes sense, as it turns out. We got 2 more stats we're going to run through in the end of the show here to close things out. We will do that in just 1 second. My stat is a pretty big sea change for the Raptors in an area where they used to be really, really prolific and not so much anymore. We will get to that and more closing out the show in just 1 sec. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the single best way to play daily fantasy sports. It's super duper easy. It's the way it should be, frankly. It's not you against some expert in a basement who's put together an unassailable lineup. It's not you against 1,000 experts who spent all day making their lineups. No, it's just you against the projections. PrizePicks sets the projection for given stats for players, and you say whether that player will get more or less. You can put up to 6 players on an entry, as little as 2. And if you get up to 6 correct on a given entry, you can win up to 25 times your money. That is pretty sweet. You can also play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. You can do that by going to the community plays tab under the promos tab on the app to view some of the entries from the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. And PrizePicks, of course, offers that sweet reboot policy. If you have a player in a basketball or football game who gets hurt in the first half, doesn't return for the second, that player is rebooted, meaning PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. That is pretty rad. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. Use the code LockedInNBA for a first deposit match of $200. That's prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a deposit match. The first deposit match of 200 bones with PrizePicks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Wrapping up the show here, Sean Woodley, Kirtika Uthaya-Kumar from TSN, the queen of Raptors Twitter stats. If you're not following Kirtika, the handle's on the screen. Follow it right now because she's amazing and has great nuggets that inform all of us dum-dums on the internet and make us all smarter. So Kirtika, third stat, I give you the floor. What you got? And I guess we didn't talk about the Dennis Schroeder thing. I didn't give my number. You said it's fully real. I give it a 10 as well. I think that's holding up with that bit of business away. What is your third stat? And let's dive into how real it is. What you got?
This might be a lot of Dennis, maybe, but my third stat is going to be Dennis Schroeder and Emmanuel Quickly lineups.
Okay,
Raptors
perfect.
can finally run 2 guard lineups that are good,
right?
Are fun.
Having 2 guards, period. What a remarkable thing. 2 guards, 2 whole guards.
Yep. They can finally do those now. And
Eric
Darko
Flynn sheds a
Darko's
tear
been,
somewhere. Poor
Raptors
guy.
Nation. Yeah, they can finally run 2 whole guards. They've even run 3 guard lineups in the last couple games, which is with Gary, Dennis, and IQ all together. Mm-hmm. But the Emmanuel Quickly, Dennis Schroeder lineups are plus outscoring teams by 18 points per 100 possessions in their 86 minutes, plus 35 overall.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's the fact that they can do that. Maybe it's just like the bars on the ground sort of thing from what we've had to kind of go through all this last couple seasons, but that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think that, we talked about Dennis at length already, but the different combos they can run with guys who can maintain the offense. Even it's not even just Dennis and Quickly, right? Like Dennis and RJ have been really strong as a duo as well. Yeah. And you can actually kind of carve out lineups where you don't need everything to hinge upon Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. That's a beautiful thing. I know there's some concern trolling about, Scotty's usage is down. I was like, well, no, because the team's better and it all makes more sense. Stop counting possessions.
Stop using usage in a individual.
Go off.
It's not. It is misleading and dishonest to use just usage as in a conversation about hierarchy or what player is more important to it. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
The usage percentage is calculated, is an estimate of a player's possessions of how many possessions a player uses while he's on the floor.
Yeah.
So it's not like an overall game thing either. And it's calculated using the end of possessions, right? So it's field goal, how a possession ends what is used to make those estimates. So it doesn't include anything that happens before the turnover or the bucket or the miss, or the free throws.
It also notably doesn't include Scotty Barnes draws 2 dudes and passes out for a wide open 3. That's a Scotty possession leading to good offense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can use the usage and assist together, but just using. I'm so sorry. My biggest pet peeve.
This is great.
Listing. The hill I die on. Listing out a player's usage percentage in an individual game or even a small sample without any other context means nothing. You're just trying to, or maybe you don't understand the stat.
Rile up the Scotty stands. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
We can call it what it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
We all got to get engagement somehow.
It's misleading. It's not saying, his usage is down. He's not doing this. Yeah. Or Pascal's taking away from Scotty's. That's just not what it is.
Also, like when the team is winning basketball games, who cares the exact, like you don't need to be an accountant at the abacus counting possessions, being like, oh, that's not enough possessions. I'm going to write that down in my little book here. Like, no, like
Yeah,
it's
that
all
gets
harmonious.
too into the nerd.
Good ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
too much into the nerd, I think that goes.
Well, now you've spawned an idea for an episode where I have to bring you back now, where we just go through all of your biggest stat pet peeves. That sounds like a ton of fun, and I very much look forward to it. I hope you accept the invitation back. If I
might get canceled, so maybe not.
If I haven't scared you away with my Muppet adjacent projection and voice, then we're good. But yeah, I love the IQ Dennis number. That's great. And frankly, I think that's like an 8 or a 9 as well, holding up as it has. Yeah. Obviously, lineups, when they play lots of minutes together, they're probably going to come down from the extreme super high outcomes that they're getting. But
they played 24 minutes last night, and it was even, which is still good.
Right. But yeah, good stuff there. My last one, we're going a little away from the offense, although still on the offensive end. And we'll have to do one on defense where the numbers are less fun because it's kind of grim.
We're going to pretend. Yeah.
Defense. Who needs defense when you're a top 5 offense now? That's what I say.
Exactly.
Like the Kings were fine last year.
Exactly.
For me, offensive rebounding. That's the thing that's popped off, just kind of looking at things that have drastically changed. Like there's still a team that's moving the ball a ton. There's still a team that is, living at the rim. There's still a team that is going to run a whole bunch. There's also used to be a team that really spammed the offensive glass. Even this season, like less so than under Nick Nurse with Darko, but still a pretty heavy offensive rebounding team. Since the trade, the Toronto Raptors, 27th in offensive rebounding percentage. And I guess this is just like a thing where our offense is good. Like, when do we got to crash the boards to get all these brick assists for when we can just 4 baskets on the first shot? That's pretty cool. But obviously, offensive rebound percentage is just the percentage of available offensive rebounds that you collect. Yeah. What do you think about this? Like, is this something that feels like a tangible change in the way they're playing? Is this small sample weirdness and they will kind of tick back up as a team that still hunts the offensive glass, even though their offense is good, as they're like low-hanging fruit they're not grabbing there? What's your read on this, the offensive rebounding being so down compared to recent seasons?
I think obviously it's a completely different change of play style. So they're moving the ball up faster. So they're not hanging around as long, if that makes sense. And they're not trying to, I guess the offensive glass, but I don't think they will be as great of an offensive rebounding team. Like not at least top 5 or leading the NBA. Top 10 though. However, they are 13th right now in second chance points overall. In the last 6 games, that number is 12.8. So they're scoring 13.3 points off of offensive rebounds on the season. 12.8 is still decent, as opposed to, they're not getting as many offensive rebounds, but they're scoring on the ones that they are getting.
Yeah, I think that checks out based on what we've seen so far. I also think maybe we've seen this kind of creep into their identity a little bit over the course of the season. And I think especially now,
the effort.
They're a team that like seems to really pride itself on not letting other teams run a bunch, right? Like on the season, they're number 3 in transition frequency allowed. Since the trade, they're number 2. Just 11.8% of opponent possessions are coming in transition. So maybe with the offense having more potency to it, there's just an understanding here of, okay, like we can afford to just kind of get back, avoid getting into these sort of transition pong battles back and forth, and just kind of clean up that area, which was not an area where they were particularly good. Right now, like they're bad at allowing points in transition. They're 26th in points per play allowed. They're just not giving up a ton of those opportunities, so it's helping them out here. But I wonder if maybe we see a bit more of a focus on, you know what, our offense can hang. Let's just get back and not send extra guys to the glass and just kind of try to clean up that area of the house, which is kind of a big mess right now when it happens. Again, the frequencies, I think, a pretty encouraging thing there. But where would you go, like scale of 1 to 10, and how real do you think this 27th in offensive rebounding percentage is?
I'm going to say 3 or 4. I don't think it sticks to that low. Some of those numbers are also because Yak's been out for a couple games.
Yeah.
I think. But either they get a replacement, or in terms of Bismack Biyombo, or
The vibes are incredible right now. Why wouldn't you go bring bring back big business? God, that's a tongue twister. I'm just not good at saying words, as it turns out. But yeah, I don't think a single better way you could double down on the vibes right now than to bring back Biz.
No, that's the easiest way to make it that much more fun. But yeah, I don't think it lasts. I think they're not going to be a top 10 offensive rebounding team again, or at least not in the same way, but normal, average.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Probably like a 5 or a 6. I would say that I might believe a little bit more that they're just kind of abandoning the offensive rebounding thing, not fully, but much more than they have in the past. Because again, it's the luxury of having an offense that hits shots on the first attempt.
You don't need to hang around for the board. The reason they were so good at offensive rebounding, even like obviously we all use the per game as a general number 2, as opposed to the offensive rebounding rate.
Yeah.
And they were always so good at offensive rebounding because they were missing so many shots.
Yeah.
They took the most shots and had the most offensive rebounds because they missed so many.
They're just like totally rigging the stats. Like, we can't shoot. We're going to crash and not get back. And we're going to get way more possessions than anybody else as well.
Yeah.
We're just setting ourselves up to hang some sort of offensive rebounding banner as the one thing that we do well. It's nice. It's still a brave new world where they can play offense. It's pretty wild. Kirthika, this has been awesome.
It's hard to believe.
This has been awesome. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to hang out, dig into some numbers here. We'll have to have you back again for Kirthika's list of really dumb stats. Really can't wait for that. But in the meantime, where can people check out all the great stuff you do?
Just my Twitter. I think I definitely fire off sometimes too many tweets.
There's not
Twitter,
too many
and then
tweets.
I do.
No such thing when the team is fun.
Right. I also have a little Substack thing where I just do notes every day for myself. Cool. So I figured I'd post them myself on mine.
That's awesome. Everyone go subscribe there. And we'll put the link for that in the description of the podcast if you want to do that. And we would love to have you back again sometimes. Great. This is awesome having you.
So much fun.
Hopefully all these numbers hold up exactly as we thought they would, and we can just have an episode later when we talk about all your biggest grievances with the stats community. We can also talk about how right we were on things. That's always fun.
Yes.
We'll leave it there, though. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please follow, subscribe to, rate, review, tell a friend. It's always appreciated when you support the show. However you support the show, we're also on YouTube. You can join us over there. Subscribe to the videos each and every day. We'll be back again on Monday, talk about the end of the road trip against the Utah Jazz and look ahead to a bit of a tough homestand. OG Anunoby's return coming next week. It's lots of stuff to dig into. Or is it next week, 2 weeks from now? Who knows? 20th. It's all fake. Time is fake. The 20th. This is great. This is perfect. Either way, thank you so much for tuning in. We will talk to you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Thanks for hanging. Extend Pascal Siakam now. Bye-bye.